Hey guys, we are live. Sorry we're late. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we made it. We made it. We have 29 people in the house. Who did you see first, Thomas?
From Melissa, and then want to be outdoors. And then I see Martin. Martin S. from the UK, 351 Cleveland. James Bailey. We got Bugman.
And I see Cold Creek Billy, LG Bass, Robin C. How's it going? And I saw Jarrell in there, JBT. And
David
yeah, I was doing my nails,
Williams.
and you're correct. They're done though. You guys know that we can't start a show until I get my nails done first. And I usually wait until the last like 5 minutes before I do that. So, with all of our things going wrong, I had a little bit of extra time. So,
We've got Don R. in.
did you say Maddie? Did you see Maddie in there?
Maddie.
Okay, guys. So let's Thomas said earlier, let's get to the meat and potatoes. So let's get to the meat and potatoes, guys.
Can't forget.
Who are we forgetting?
Real-time catfishing,
Mr. Parker. Okay, I see him. So let's get down to it, guys. We have our guest today, Malik Currington of Family Budget Fisherman. He's gonna give us some tips and would you say some tricks of how to buy fishing gear on a budget. So let's welcome him in.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm quite well today. How are you both?
We are doing okay. We were running into a lot of stuff back here in the back behind the scenes, and we're finally here.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be on your show. Thank you for the invitation, most definitely. And I hope to have a fantastic afternoon. For you, it's evening, and for me, it's still afternoon.
Oh, that's right. There's what, a 2-hour difference?
Indeed.
Okay. So tell everybody where you're from and about your channel and anything else you'd like us to know.
Well, my name is Malik Currington, and my handle is the Family Budget Fisherman. And I started this channel about, now it's been 4 years, April of 2019. And it happened, believe it or not, as a result of an argument that my wife and I had over buying some high-end fishing equipment. Believe it or not, I was not the one who wanted to buy the high-end equipment. She did. And she told me, yeah, it was an accident. I was at the Sportsman's Expo in Sacramento, California that January, and I ordered 2 rods for a total of, it was supposed to have been buy one, get one free. So I ordered 4 rods, and they made a mistake and sold me and had prepared 8 rods for me to purchase. And
wow.
Because I knew so many people there, each one of these rods was a $200 rod. My wife said, "You are not going to embarrass me in front of all these people. So we're just going to have to buy all these rods, and then we're just going to have to work it out." So I ended up buying $800 worth of fishing rods, but I got 4 rods that were worth $160 for free. So it was a good purchase, but the capital expense was really big. And that's when I got to thinking about all of the different times that I was able to make purchases and buy products, buy a lot of fishing equipment on a discount. And I wondered if anyone else was interested in hearing that. I've been a fisherman for now 48 years.
Did you say 48?
Correct. I'm in my early 50s.
Okay.
Yeah. And and I've fishing since a little boy,
Mhm.
and I have always been able to buy fishing equipment at a real reasonable price, no matter how high it was. If I wanted it, I learned how to purchase it without it upsetting what my regular budget was. And I wondered if there was anyone who wanted to hear that, and that's how the channel was born. And matter of fact, in my very first video, I remember making mention, why does the world need another fishing channel? Because there were so many out even at that time. But
Mhm.
it's become mildly successful. Yeah. And I think I have almost 2,000 subscribers. It's not a big channel, but it's a good sized channel. Uh, I am surprised though at the amount of revenue that that it brings in now. So I'm really excited about it, and about what the channel represents to those people who watch it. An opportunity to to purchase products on a discount, because fishing equipment is high.
Mhm.
Just in general, fishing equipment is very high. Fishing hooks, the rods. Now, even for carp fishing, you get a 3 pound rod, you're still going to spend over $100 for a 3 pound rod.
Yes.
And yeah, and for us, whether we're fishing or bass fishing, it's not uncommon to have to spend $300 or $400 for a combo.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I know when I first started watching your channel and it said family budget fisherman. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay. And you're going to teach how to buy fishing equipment on a
Hmm.
budget. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
And I saw a couple of your combos. And I was
Uh
like,
huh.
man, you know, I was like, I don't think I could afford that on my budget. Okay. So, how do
Hmm.
you go about getting those deals and discounts and uh, things to buy your rods and your
Um,
combos?
I'll give you an example. This rod right here is an $80 rod.
Hmm.
Okay. This is a Skeet Reese. Skeet Reese is a professional bass fisherman, and he won the championship in, I would like to say, 2009. So he's a pretty popular fisherman in the bass tournament series.
Hmm.
This rod, um, it's an $80 rod sold at Bass Pro Shops. I got this rod for $15.
Oh, wow.
Now, what I took advantage of was the sales that this rod would have from time to time. Every now and then, this rod is sold for half its price at Dick's Sporting Goods. And then I would often have maybe a $10 coupon to add to it, and a few rewards points. So it might be an additional $5 there. And
Hmm.
I would accumulate these on a regular basis. Dick's Sporting Goods happens to have a program where if you walk 10,000 steps or 3 miles every day, you get a certain amount of points. And those points accrue over a certain period of time, and they cut you a rewards check for $10. So if you could take advantage of this sale at $40 and then apply the $10 rewards points, you now have an $80 rod for what? 20 bucks?
Okay.
That's just one example.
Hmm.
Another thing that I tend to do, let's see if I can find that rod. This rod here, now this rod still might be out of your budget, but for most bass fishermen, it's not. This rod here, this is a little bit higher rod. This rod here, I want you to see the price on that rod. Can you see that price? Let's
Uh,
see, right there.
no, I can't see it very well.
Okay, that says $325.
Oh, my. Hmm.
That's the retail price of this bass fishing rod.
Hmm.
I picked this rod up for $114. Now, here's what I did do though. This rod became a discontinued rod for 13 Fishing, and they upgraded this rod to their current model. Well, I found where these were sold on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and Amazon happened to have a blowout sale. And since I'm always looking for fishing equipment, they had this for sale um, for $125, and I happened to have an Amazon gift card and got it at a discount. So now I'm holding in my hand a $325 fishing rod for $114.
Bam, you guys. You get that?
You know,
Wow.
and I could go on and on. Let's see. Um, oh, these right here. This is probably one of the most popular fishing spinning reels in bass fishing right now. It's made by a company called Shimano.
Uh-huh.
This is a $250 reel. And you see how many boxes I have? I have what? I got six of these boxes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. This reel sells for 250, and I
Uh-huh.
got them for an average of 130 bucks using the same kind of practices as I did before. Now, another way you can do that is looking at special sales. Every now and then, uh, Tackle Warehouse will have a special sale.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it froze when the dog barked.
Okay, we're back.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
We froze up for a second.
that's okay. So, another aspect of this is being patient as well,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times when new fishing gear hits the market, say for example after the ICAST show that happens every year, people want to buy the newest, latest, and greatest right then. I always tell my subscribers, wait, especially if the rod that you have always wanted, they just upgraded that rod. You can now get the rod that they are discontinuing at a discount. You just have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
So, a combination of looking for rods that are on sale or discounted, uh, and being patient, you can save a whole lot of money. So those are some of the tactics, and there are more. I mean, there are a lot more, but that's just one of several of the ways that I try to do it.
You must have read my mind because that was my next question. Why do you buy discounted rods as opposed to getting the current model that's out? That was my next question, and
Oh,
you pretty much you pretty much already
yeah,
answered that.
and that's the number one reason because of that. Now I have rods here that are the current model. For example,
Mm-hmm.
that Vanford is the latest and greatest model. Uh, where else? I'll have to reach over here. This is another very expensive rod. This is called a St. Croix Legend Extreme. This
Mm-hmm.
is a $670 rod. I got it for
Wow.
$300 using the same techniques. And this is the current model. Yeah. And just those are the ways you do it. Now, I have a selection of ugly sticks. I love ugly sticks. All
Oh
of my
no.
biggest fish in the world are on ugly sticks. And I probably have more of these than any other category of fishing rod. And of course, you can pick these up just about anywhere, and they retail for 50 bucks. And of course, I'm always looking for a deal, so I'll pick them up whenever I can get them at $25. And that applies to fishing rods, reels. That applies to lures. There is if I can find it. Um, where are they? I don't see them. Well,
Sit here
I
so I
might
can
see them during the course of us talking, but
uh-huh.
there is a fishing lure called a jackhammer, and it's a bladed jig bait. And oh, uh, where is it? Yep, I don't see it. Just looking around here, but the jackhammer retails for $20. One lure. $20. I think I have about 30 of them. But what I was able to do is get them down to $6, and I bought as many as I could afford.
Wow.
Yeah,
Now, see,
and
I've always heard that bass fishing is the most expensive type of fishing.
for freshwater, yes, for freshwater, and that's just simply because there is a lot of emphasis on tournaments, and that's the main reason why. The emphasis on tournaments is what keeps the cost so high. So the question is, how is it that I'm able to make a purchase for this same bait that this professional bass fisherman may have used, but not pay the price that he thinks I should pay for it, or the company who produces it thinks that I should pay for it? I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
it's okay.
Okay, so you say tournament fishing would be
hmm
more expensive than the freshwater fishing. Was
Well,
that what or
no, it's the bass fishing is expensive because the focus of bass fishing is on tournament fishing.
okay, okay, I see.
People can go bass fishing. For example, again, I can take this combo right here, this combo all together. Remember that half off rod? Same thing with the reel. This out the door is probably only $60 out the door. However, and I can bass fish with it. As you can see, I have a worm on it right now.
Hmm.
Now, but because tournament fishing is such a big aspect of bass fishing, it makes this aspect, this part of the sport very expensive because fishermen, we are junkies in general. People who fish are junkies. We love to do it. We don't need a reason to do it. We just, sometimes you're just sitting around and like other people get hungry, you want to go fishing.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what the weather looks like. But for bass fishermen, there's an added layer there because so many of the people we admire in the sport are also promoting products, and we want to make purchases similar to the products that they own or they are promoting. And so, because of it, we make these purchases. Like you can see, my garage is pretty much full of them, you
Yes.
know. And yeah, I mean, there's I don't know, there's probably $40,000 worth of equipment behind me.
Oh
Is
my.
it, yeah, and the reason why though is because we love making purchases for fishing equipment as much as we love to actually go fishing, particularly during the wintertime when we can't spend a bunch of money to take out a boat, gas it up, get all the food together. A day going fishing can be as much as $150, maybe $200. And so when we're not fishing, that amount of that budget, that actually is still in our pocket.
Hmm.
And we want to do something with it. So what do? We go buy equipment.
Go back. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Oh, there's those bladed jigs right there. Let's see if I can grab them real quick.
So, with that being said, what do
hmm
you consider the most important piece of equipment an angler has?
Well, so glad you asked that. The most important piece of equipment that every fisherman has is the fisherman, period. It is my mind, my eyes, my nose, my mouth, my hands.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter, particularly to the fish, what I use to try to catch him. On the other end of the hook, they have no idea what I'm using. If I know how to, what we call break down a body of water, where I can find fish that are either responsive or hungry, I'm going to have a great day fishing. And
Hmm.
that includes carp. I catch a lot of carp on plastic baits.
Hmm.
And my number one bait, see this goat bait up here?
Uh-huh.
This goat bait right here. I can use baits based on it. So, for example, these baits in here. This is an old box, but the gulp bait, the package bait like this, I can take this, and if I have a good fish finder,
Uh-huh.
I can actually go out and find a school of carp and catches more carp than you can
Right.
because I'm looking for carp that are active, either reactionary or hungry. And the most reactionary carp happen to be carp that are on beds. I mean, I can catch them like bluegill then. And I mean the big ones, the big 10 pounders and so forth. Oh yeah. And
Wow.
that's just simply because they're very active or responsive. Well, in bass fishing, that's what we learn is how to look for active schools of fish or active areas where fish see bait fish. For carp, they're not looking necessarily for bait fish, but they're looking for areas where they could eat, the kind of foliage that they like. And as a result of doing that, they will have a very good experience with me catching them in the water.
Okay.
I'm
Hmm.
sorry, everybody. I had to move. Apparently the echo issue was the laptop, so I decided to come over and
Oh,
sit with my lovely wife and
well, you both
enjoy
look
listening to Mr.
fantastic
Currington.
together. How about that?
Now, see, let me tell you this. When
Uh
we
huh.
first started to do this, I said,
Okay.
Thomas, you might have to sit beside me when we do this because there may be an echo. What did he say? No, I'm going to sit
Nah.
over there. And guess
Uh huh.
what? Do you want to say I was right?
No, I don't, and I don't know
Well,
it.
you can resist, and it's okay to resist.
So,
Oh yeah, but the thing is, we learn. It's interesting because I talked about this at my church not long ago. We learn how to listen to our wives, even in areas where we have expertise. We learn how to do it.
I'm a
Oh
slow
yeah,
learner.
he
that's
says he's a
okay.
slow.
Well,
Pardon?
you're a
I am
lifer,
over
so
here now.
you'll get there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so that's the thing about bass fishing, though, is that it teaches you how to appreciate other species in fishing. For example, if I were to go crappie fishing, I would use the same sort of techniques. If I were to go bluegill fishing, if I were to go fish for what we call non-andrometous fish,
Hmm.
so if I got a landlocked salmon or landlocked striped bass, if I'm doing andrometous fish or fish come in from the ocean to freshwater, there's a little different technique to find those active schools. But in general, bass fishermen are always looking for an active fish, active school, or somewhere where there's a reaction that happens, which is
Okay.
why we have so many different types of bait because we're always looking for what do you want today? We're always wanting to answer that question, what do you want today? And even um, with catfishing and carp fishing, it works all the same way because they're all fish and they get hungry. They get
Right.
hungry in the winter, they get hungry in the summer. I remember when one day we weren't doing too well catfishing, bass fishing. And so I asked my uncle, I said, hey, Uncle, you mind if I just take the boat on over to the main body of the river and we fish this back eddy? He's like, well, why do you want to do that? I said, because there are some catfish over there who would love to either eat our goat baits or we'll go get some shiners. Well, we went over there at times that it was really, really comfortable for us to go over there. This is the middle of summer in Sacramento where it generally gets over 100 degrees. So we would go out there at times where it was comfortable for us, but we were not successful. We would have to go out there during the middle of the day when it's extremely uncomfortable for us to be out there. It's hot, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and
Hmm.
we would set 8 foot leaders and we would drift either these gulp baits or shiners into this little eddy. And every time we would do that, we would catch catfish that were over 5 pounds.
Okay.
I mean, it was actually one bait to one fish. We would never have to rebait because the fish took the bait. They took everything. And
Uh-huh.
this went on. We were able to come back to this location over the course of 3 years. And we were very successful with it because we just knew where they were and knew how to approach those fish.
Right.
But those are some of the things that these learning this style teaches you. And my argument is if you're going to learn this way, you can't spend $600 for one rod. You have to find a way to get that on a discount. There's
Right.
just no way to do that. 'Cause-
Now, I've noticed in most of your videos,
Mhm.
you're a spinning reel guy. Why is that?
It's what I started with. And I learned how to be very, very effective with that technique. Most of my fishing is not what we call reaction baits. So I'm not throwing a lot of hard baits. I'm throwing a lot of soft baits, and I'm doing slower presentations, and that's more conducive to using a spinning combo. Now I do throw topwater baits and I do throw those other things, but I'm much more proficient with a slower, more deliberate technique. And so over those years, I have always used the spinning gear. Uh, Bait casters, generally speaking, are for reaction bites or very heavy baits. So we're talking baits that are over 2 ounces, for example, as an example. And so that for me was why I use spinning gear. I get a lot of flack from the bass guys because they go, man, why do you have all these fairy wands and you're going after bass? I said, well, because number one, I've been catching these before you were born, and I'm really good at it. And number two, because my technique, my style, which does evolve every so many years, it has evolved to be more proficient with this rod rather than the bait caster.
Yeah, I don't use spinning reels. I I just don't like them. So, but maybe I'm trying to learn to get into bass fishing and things like that.
Mhm.
So maybe I'll have to learn, to use spinning reels.
Well,
But
there are going to be those times when you're going to want to use a spinning reel over a bait caster. Those moments
oh,
will happen.
okay. Now I
Hmm.
hear you say spinner baits and top water baits and things
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
There are so many different baits. Now, does that depend on like the weather and your water conditions, or how would I go out and say, okay, I'm gonna fish for some
Hmm.
bass
Hmm.
with,
Hmm.
how would I go about choosing what type of bait I'm gonna use? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. With every body of water that you approach, and let's use the river, the it's not a river. It doesn't look like you fish a river. You looks like you fish a stream or a slough.
Me, I fish
Yeah.
a river,
Is
It's a
that a
small
river?
river, but
small
it's still a
small
river.
river.
Okay. Because what we call those in California, we call those sloughs. We
Okay.
have a river, but the river stretches across a third of the state. It's a big river.
Well,
So,
that'd eat our river.
Well, our river's long, it's just narrow.
It's a
oh, okay. So even let's just use the river, your river, for example.
okay.
There are going to be when I go fishing. Let's say I'm looking for bass in that river. What I'm looking for are backflows. If I'm floating down the river in a boat, for example, I'm looking for laydowns where there are logs in the water that are causing the water to do something different than just flow straight down the stream. I'm looking for breaks. I'm looking for eddies. I'm looking for anything where I can find number one, clearer water, or I'm looking for bait fish, or I'm looking for where the water seems to flow backward
Okay.
because bass are omnivorous fish. They eat everything.
Mm-hmm.
and they are always staging to look for something to come to them or a place to ambush their prey. And so my baits are designed to be able to fish that body of water in those areas to look like something it was either ambush wanting to ambush or waiting to come to them through the flow of the stream. So to use a topwater bait, and a topwater bait is a bait that floats across the top of the water. Um, let's see where I should have took a lot of stuff out. 1 second.
Uh-huh.
I know you can still hear me.
Yeah.
So, but I am right now. I'm going to get some hard baits.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go. So this is my hard baits box, for example. Okay, and all of those different baits are designed to look like something that the bass wants to eat and or wants to react to. So, and sometimes we get our hooks all messy around here. So at any rate, this is called a popper. Okay. And this bait is designed to do one thing, and that is to look like an injured bait fish, moving across the top of the water. And it makes noise. If you can hear that, it makes
Mm-hmm.
this little noise there. And then it will use this cup right here, causes the water to splash backward. All of these are to get the bass to take a look at what they believe is an injured bait fish or injured creature, because I've caught bass with snakes in them. I've caught bass with baby birds in them, frogs, everything. So that's what it's designed to do. And all of the baits are designed to do something like that or mimic the forage that I believe is in the water.
Okay.
So
And we have a
that's
question for you from in chat.
Mhm.
Fresno wants to know where you're fishing from. You fish in
um,
the Sacramento area, don't you?
Cal-
Oh no.
okay, little hiccup there again.
Yeah.
So I live in Redding, California, and Lake Shasta is about maybe 5 miles north of me. But I fish from Lake Shasta all the way down to the California Delta. And I'm usually in the North Delta because that's closest to me. And that includes the area. Well, he's a little further south. So there's a lot of fishing in these, what is called the aqueduct. And there's a lot of great fishing in the aqueduct. But I'm a little more north in those areas. And Clear Lake is another lake that I'd choose to fish.
Well, what's your primary target when you go fishing? I mean, are you mostly bass? Do you mostly go for crappie? Is there one specific species that you target most often?
Generally speaking, no. Like most fishermen, I do a lot of catch and release. So I just love to feel the tug. That is my drug, literally. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it doesn't really matter what I hook into as long as I can catch it and take a picture of it. Now,
Right.
having said that, there are days when I want to go and catch bass because there are certain set of baits I would like to use that particular day. That day, I may want to just throw all frogs, whether they submersible frogs or topwater frogs. Another day, I may just want to go crappie fishing because crappie fishing, in my mind, yeah, I'm about 3 or 4 hours away from them. um, in my mind, is probably the best freshwater table fare in the country. I don't think it gets any better than the flaky taste of a crappie. And so, and then there are times when I can just see a big school of carp, and I just want to catch them because they can almost break my combos trying to get them in the water,
Oh
out the
yes.
water.
Carp are a lot of fun.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So there is a place in Sacramento, just north of Sacramento, called Knight's Landing. If they're
Uh-huh.
in California, Yep, the tug is my drug, no doubt about it. Uh, those there is an area there where I can throw literally I can throw this bait right here if I can get today is that day where everything wants to stick.
Yeah.
Don't know why the hooks all my hooks are eating today. And you know what? I'm going to carry everything over there. So I can oh, there it goes. It came off. So I can throw this bait here. This is called a rattle trap.
Uh-huh.
And I can catch as many carp in the mouth with this rattle trap as I can bass, crappie, or catfish that same day in that area. And that's because for whatever reason, and most people don't a lot of people don't know this, but carp will eat other fish when they have very little other forage to eat. They will eat just like a catfish will.
Mhm.
Yeah, they will not starve. Those fish will not starve. And
Yeah,
so, and it's not uncommon to catch that many of them while you're out trying to go for striped bass or even salmon or trout.
So do you try to match your when you go to buy new rods, you try to match that with what you're trying to catch, or do you just try to see what it catches? Or do you have
It,
a goal in mind for what you want to target with that new rod?
in general, yes, there are, but I don't match it to the rod. It's interesting that you mentioned that. For the type of fishing that we do, bass fishing and crappie fishing, we don't necessarily match it to the rod. We match it to the baits that we choose to throw because one of the beauties of throwing artificial bait is you can decide that you're going to throw only only diving baits, or you can throw only topwater baits or only crappie style, the little crappie baits. And for that reason, you have the rod that can effectively throw and place those baits where you would like to throw and place them. Because the issue for us is not that I'm not going to catch a crappie or a bass, because I know that I am. But the thing is, can I be as effective in casting and placing that bait where I would like to throw it so that I can stay in what we call the strike zone long enough to catch that fish? Because we already know the fish is there. With the kind of equipment that we bring to bear in the water, now we have this forward facing sonar where we can literally see our bait move up and down and the school of fish. I mean, we can almost name the fish while we're there. We can be Adam, just name the fish. And so, for us, it's just a matter of how effective can I present the bait so it looks like the forage that they're willing to eat.
So
So,
you could just so it's about your technique, you would say?
correct. It's more
Okay.
about the technique. So when I go and look for a fishing rod, whether I'm looking for, say, this rod right here, which is a medium heavy rod to throw this spinner bait right here, versus throwing a medium light or a medium rod to throw this small Kitech paddle swim bait. So it's a matter of being able to throw each one of those effectively where it stays in the strike zone for whatever forage may be out there. I don't know whether it's going to be a bass or a crappie or catfish, because again, the kind of fishing that I engage, I can be out there and catch catfish. If you look at my Instagram channel, I have a reel where I posted all of the catfish that I caught on spinner baits and plastic worms. I almost never use live or cut bait. I haven't done it in years. And so um, being able to find those fish that are active, I can throw those there. I just have to make sure that my equipment is able to present that bait effectively. There's a question about electronics.
Uh-huh.
Yes, backyard
Uh,
carp wants to. How about budget electronics, fish finders, and such?
well, right now, and this is another thing that I promote on the channel, technology has come so far that what was once considered a high-end piece of equipment is now budget. So, side-facing sonar, for example, 10 years ago, you couldn't buy a piece of equipment where you could see 100 feet out on either side of you, whether you had it as a handheld device or you had it as part of your electronics on your boat. You had to spend $1,000 or $1,500. You now can get that piece of technology for less than $100, just
Now,
about anywhere.
when you say that technology plays a role in the development of the rods that you use as well.
Oh, most definitely. There are certain rods, for example, there are certain composites that, even with carp fishing, and they're pretty much the same. So you have composite rods, graphite composite rods, and then you have glass rods or fiberglass rods. You hear that term a lot. Well, depending on uh, the electronics that I have, that also encourages me to approach the body of water a certain way where I don't need the biggest, latest, and greatest. All I need is something small enough to be able to creep on top of the fish and drop my bait down to them. And for what it's worth, every fisherman would love to be able to sneak up on a bait on a fish, cast the bait to that fish, and catch that fish. You will see a lot of people throw a lot of big baits here and there, excuse me. But what they are really interested in doing is being able to sneak up, because hunting is that way. The hunting and gathering process is just that way, where we just want to sneak up on that fish and we want to catch that fish with whatever we got. So yes, it does dictate.
So, do you have
Mhm.
a certain material that you prefer your rods to be made out of,
Um,
or do
Torre
you base that
graphite.
based on what you're trying to throw?
Um, yes, I prefer a composite called Torre graphite. The company Torre in Japan makes a special kind of graphite that, in my mind, makes the most sensitive rods that can be purchased. Now, Shimano and Daiwa are probably are would be considered our Rolls Royce level fishing companies when it comes to development of rods. They don't like to tell us what their composites are, but I happen to know everybody goes to Toray graphics in Japan to use that type of material. And what they do is they create a rod that is as sensitive as possible, but is durable, by the same token, so that so that we as fishermen are able to cast, because we cast a lot. I remember on one of your podcasts, one of your subscribers said, "Bass fishermen cast too much." I just kind of laughed. It's been some time back, but I remember that statement. But yeah, we cast between 900 and 1,500 times a day. We do that much
Wow.
casting. No matter what it is. I mean, it's almost an exercise routine for us during the course of the day. And so, for that matter, we can't have very heavy equipment. It's as light has to be as light as possible. Um,
So that
Go
would
ahead.
make um, it easier to use the spinning reel over the bait caster then.
There is,
Possibly.
in all fairness, there is no one. Spinning gear is not superior to bait casters or vice versa. It is always about the technique you choose to employ when you go fishing. I'll give you an example. I have over here, oh, I put it over there real quickly. Here I
Mhm.
have a rod. Now, this is a very expensive rod. Okay. I'm just going to tell you right up front. It's not my most expensive rod, it's my most expensive combo. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I just got it. This is a mega bass fishing. This is a bait caster. This is familiar to you, right? Okay. This reel is $400. This rod is $650. So this is a $1,000 combo. Now, blessings, I won this rod. You can see that
Uh-huh.
on my channel. I won the
Uh-huh.
rod, and I bought the reel for $190. It's a
What?
$400 reel that I bought for $190. So I'm sitting here holding a combo in my hand that I paid a total of $190 for.
Wow. Wow.
So and it's a $1,000 combo. Now I'm stressing the point that it's all technique based when it comes to fishing. There is a new aspect to using the bait cast reels where they call BFS or bait finesse system. And the
Hmm.
goal of the bait finesse system is to create a line of products where you're still using a bait caster, but it's light enough to throw very tiny, what would be traditionally spinning rod equipment or lures, that you can do it on a bait caster. Because typically, bait casters require a little bit more weight to a bait than does a spinning rod.
We had
There
another
is a
question in
question.
chat. Yeah,
Mhm.
Robin C wants to know what kind of line do you like to use?
All of my equipment, except for one, and I have a lot of rods in here. I use, in general, braided line as my main line, and I use about maybe 2.5 feet of leader material called fluorocarbon.
Hmm.
And I do that because I get the strength and the distance by using the braided line. For I use 50-pound braid. Well, actually, this is 45-pound braid up above my head here, right behind that blue right there.
Uh-huh.
So that's 45-pound test braid. One of them is, and the other one is 25-pound test. The 20-pound, the 25-pound test has a diameter of 2-pound test, so I can hurl a bait very very far. But I use a leader because there's so much competition in fishing right now. There's some water bodies of water are heavily fished, and you need to be as stealth as possible, and that's where the fluorocarbon comes in, being able to present a bait that looks as natural as possible. So
Hmm.
those are the two main ones that I use in areas where, like small ponds, where I know that I'm probably the only one who fished the area. I still use mono. I still use monofilament. I'll use strand monofilament. And the reason I use that, this particular, is called Magnathin,
Hmm.
because it is smaller in diameter for the pound test that it is when compared to, say, Trilene and Suffix and some of the others.
Another question we have in chat is, do you do swim bait fishing? And if so, what is your main setup?
Well, yes, I do. And the question is, it's kind of a broad question. There is a style of swim bait fishing that I don't do much, and that is those big swim baits. I do have some right over here in my hard bait box. So, for example, this box here, this is a swim bait. It's a big swim bait. It's almost 2 ounces. Can you see that there?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But guess what? This little bitty 2 3/4 inch Kitech is also a swim bait. So the answer in absolute terms is yes, but my engagement is more on the smaller end than the larger end. And that's just simply because with smaller baits, I'm always looking for numbers. I'm not always looking for the 10-pound bass. And for what it's worth, I caught my 10-pound bass on a little bitty frog. I didn't catch my 10-pound bass on a big swim bait. So in absolute terms, yes. It's just that I'm in a different spectrum than most bass fishermen are when it comes to using that bait.
Now, do you do any area tournaments for bass fishing, or you just strictly recreational?
I am strictly recreational. I have been on teams and managed certain teams and given advice to certain teams. But in terms of actual competition, no. And there's for one reason. I don't like to get up in the morning. I really don't.
Well, I don't think anybody likes that part of it.
Yeah. And I mean, these guys have to be on the water before 6 o'clock in the morning. And Lord knows, I just want to be turning over at
Right.
around that time. you know, I my argument is this: if I continue to really promote my craft, I can do better as a fisherman and not have to be out so early. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not uncommon for me to hit the water after everyone's been out there for 4 hours and still catch my limit. But that's because I focus on how to catch my fish, than only catching my fish a certain way. And tournament fishermen are restricted in a lot of ways because they have sponsors. You can't go out there with any piece of equipment to fish. You have to go out there with sponsored equipment to fish, generally speaking. Generally speaking. There are exceptions, and that's in your, your clubhouses and so forth. But even then, they will restrict themselves. So, for example, we have in Sacramento, we have a frog tournament where you can only use a topwater frog all day, and you got to catch some fish. So, so for me, I've always had fun looking like I was a tournament guy, but not being one.
Right.
So do you have favorite equipment that you will take out time and time again over everything else?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. My favorite right now is
Is it that
I have
is
two
your
rods.
favorite that St. Croix rod?
Actually, it's not the St. Croix rod. You'll be surprised. The number one rod that I take out fishing with me, and I picked it up already, but it's this one. It's this ugly stick right here.
Ooh,
This
you said
ugly stick.
ugly stick.
Yeah, this ugly stick with a rod that I bought online from Alibaba. I really did.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh
And it
yeah.
works?
I have had this rod, this reel, and I have the sister reel. I've had them now for 8 years, and I love these reels. I absolutely
Wow.
love them. Now, and I've caught again all of my big bass, all of my big cats, all of my big crappie came off of this rod. So this rod in particular is always with me, no matter what other combination of rods and reels that I have. Now, um, there is another one over there. Now that combo right there is a $65 combo. Okay, there is another combo over there. Let me see. Oh, I see it right there, right here. This is the other one, and this is the other one that I take out with me, and I always have this with me. This is called the Shimano um, Poison Adrena. And there's just things that I love about this rod and this reel combo. Now this is on the other side of the spectrum. This is a roughly $650 combo. Okay, the rod is $410, and the reel's $250. So it's up there. And so
Mm-hmm.
these two rods I will have with me no matter what other combination of rods I have in this garage. I have about 60, almost 70 rods. And these two rods are my favorite of everything that I have and of all that I use.
Now with that being said, with that many rods, I believe it was in a couple of your videos you talked about, you know, most channels talk about how to store tackle in the boat,
Hmm.
uh, in tackle boxes and folders. How do you store all that gear
That was
at
my
home?
question.
I mean, it's so
Well,
many rods. You gotta have rods
you see
everywhere.
shoe boxes all around here, right? Here, let me bend it down just a. Uh-oh. I just dropped you. Sorry about that. Can you see me now? Can you still see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All
There
right.
we go.
So I have shoe boxes and I have bins. So bins are big like this, and they're small like your regular plastic shoe boxes.
Okay.
and I just put them wherever they can. I have shelves over here that I put them in, and I have an interesting place around here where I keep a lot of my equipment. Now, uh, that said, no matter what a fisherman tells you, and I'll just put this right out there. No fisherman is excited about the results of their storage. They're always going to store a certain way and then go, well, that doesn't quite work for me. And by the middle of the year, the storage has changed. And if you see my channel over the years, you'll see my storage has changed because I'm not quite happy with the way they're stored. And that's only because, for one main reason, and that is my style of fishing changes. And because it changes, the things I do change. Hmm.
My wife is never really happy with the state of my garage either.
Oh,
Then you understand exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. Though you buy like soft plastics in bulk, how do
Correct.
you how do you store those? I believe in your one of you said your garage wasn't cool, so uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
because it gets really hot there.
it
So those
does.
melt.
Well, and
Is that?
thankfully they don't. The kind of plastic that most soft baits are made with, are pretty resilient to heat. Now,
Mm-hmm.
having said that, there is a kind of plastic called elastex, where it is very, very resistant to fish biting it, but you compromise on the heat being on it. So it has to be stored separately and specially. I also have the liquid baths. As you can see here, I shared that with you earlier when I mentioned I use this a lot for catfishing and carp fishing.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then, of course, I have, regular storage boxes, for my hard baits and plastic baits. Now, if you put 25 fishermen in the same room, we're going to give you 30 different ways to store plastic. That's just the way it is. Because the way we store plastic is based upon how we use it when we go fishing. It's not based upon a reasonable system for long-term storage. If you can see that, because when it's go time, we don't want to have to look for any of this stuff. I have over to my right a section for my equipment that I'm going to take with me whenever I go to the next fishing opportunity that I'll have. And that's because 100% of the time I forget something.
Mm-hmm.
100% of the time, something just doesn't make it. It might even be something new I want to try, and it's left. So the day before or 2 days before, I have to set it up in one location. And because I have so much equipment, obviously I can't take it all with me. So what I do is I decide, well, for this body of water, this is what I'm going to take with me that particular day. And then I come home, and 2 days later, I'm back in the garage retooling. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't do wood cutting. I don't do metal. This is my shop, and this is in my cave, as it were. And this
Right.
is this is what I do.
so how far in advance do you plan your trip? I mean, if you've got all
uh,
these options,
it depends on how far away I'm going. So, for example, today is Friday, the 10th. This past Tuesday, I planned a trip for the 18th of February, because that trip will take 2 hours to drive from my house to that location. So I planned that one in advance. But there are fishing holes that are near me within 5 miles of where I live. And sometimes I'll just make sure that I have a rod in the truck, and I'll tell my son and my daughter, the two who are old enough to fish, I say, hey, why don't y'all come on? I got your rods in the car. Let's go do something before mommy gets off work. And so we'll go to a local, small body of water, and we'll catch, half a limit or so. and then we'll go to mommy's job and pick mommy up from work. So it generally depends on how far away that opportunity to fish is.
And see, you wonder why I have so many different bags and things. There's different
Y-
occasions and
Yeah.
different.
Well,
I have
even look at it
one
from this
tackle box.
perspective. If there are times when, and I know this from watching some of your videos, Shireena, that it rains sometimes. Sometimes it's hot, and your accessory bag has to be prepared for that. I have sunglasses that I keep in my bag, but I don't keep them in there when it's raining because they're useless when it's raining.
Right.
But when it's sunny, I need them. I have hats for the same reason. Sometimes I put a certain bit of towels. You don't see this, but to my left, I carry soapy water. Okay. And all it is a little bit of soap and a whole bunch of water because I hate to have filthy hands after I have finished dealing with a fish. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to use gloves,
Oh,
but
I'm a
I
glove
need my
person.
soapy water. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I have
I have
that,
my
and now,
sanitizer.
yeah, yeah. Now for me, I use instead of sanitizer, I use Clorox wipes.
Uh-huh.
You know, for a very similar reason. But now I also have daughters who like to fish, and because of that, I really need this because I have to take the bucket. You know, I got to take the toilet stool with me, and
Uh-huh.
when it's just me and my son, I don't need to take it with me. But when my daughters come, I got to take it with me. So I got to bring basically a little bathroom with me every single
Right,
time.
right.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Big
It's a
girls
new
need
thing in
those
fishing. You got to
too.
think about the girls.
Yeah, he wonders why I have so many different bags for different times. And,
Yes. Hmm.
it's, and then, like you say, you'll get out and that one thing will happen. You're like, well, I left that at home, but yeah,
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I have many
Hmm.
bags
it,
for many different
it, can, it
trips.
can mess up. It can ruin a fishing afternoon.
Oh,
It really
yeah.
can. Oh yeah. I don't use gloves. Backyard Carp asked the question. I don't use gloves, but I use that
Yeah,
soapy water religiously.
everybody talks about Shireena uses gloves. Shireena uses gloves. I use gloves all the time.
I actually
Let's see
like
what.
the way I like to feel the fish. One of the
Uh-huh.
things that we do a lot is we will feel the belly of the fish because that'll tell us whether that fish has another fish in it or
Uh-huh.
a crawdad in it, and that helps inform us on what the fish is eating, and it helps us to kind of tune in to what we need to use that day fishing.
Mm-hmm.
We call it looking for a pattern.
See, and I've been watching a lot of your videos and things, and sometimes I'm out there and I'm just doing things, but when I hear
Mhm.
you explain it, I'm like, well, hey, I'm actually doing something,
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you wanted to bass fish, and let's say, for example, you just said tomorrow you're going to do it, but you're not going to go and buy a bunch of equipment to do it. The only thing you would have to do is look for the likely places bass are along your body of water and use minnows or crawdads.
Mhm.
And I promise you, you will catch bass with the equipment you currently have. Because
Okay.
again, what you're looking for, fishing is not the equipment. Fishing
Right.
is you.
Hmm.
And if you know what you're looking for, the propensity for you to find that particular species is more high than it is not.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've caught a couple bass on accident. And I was like, I didn't even know they were out there. But
Oh yeah.
whenever you mentioned about like an eddy and
Uh huh.
like the
Hmm.
what the what am I trying to say?
Rear flows
The,
kind of backwards.
Well, I know, yeah, the eddy, but the grass and the things like that.
yes. Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And I remember back that particular day. Now the
Yeah.
water was clear. Yes, it's a muddy river out there, but the water was
Hmm.
clear. And
Yes.
out in my hole out there, it is an eddy. And that particular time, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense why that fish was there, you know?
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
looking
And
back, looking back.
looking back, and then so whenever you go out there, whenever you see similar conditions, the chance for there to be another bass there is highly likely, because bass, unlike most other fish, bass are creatures of habit. And this is scientifically proven. They will go back to the same body. You could catch a bass and drop them back in the water. They'll go right back to the same spot you caught them. They
Okay.
really will. And until they start recognizing that you're throwing a similar type of bait to them, they'll keep getting caught on it. Now, you will teach them over time, and it'll become harder and harder to catch the fish. But generally speaking, oh, they will go back in an hour or a day later. You'll be able to catch that fish in those almost exact same circumstances, because unlike most other fish, they are creatures of habit. Crappie tend to roam. You can find a crappie over here, and then the next thing you know, it's 25 miles away,
Mm-hmm.
because crappie just move. Wherever the ball of bait is, that's where they are. And you have to go look for them. They're almost never in the same spot. And they get turned off real easy with bait, which is why you see a lot of crappie fishermen. They may have, one little box of bait, but oh my God, that box has like 50 different colors in it. Because for them, they know after a while, this color won't work anymore.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's like you took our leader, you know.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that. I'm like, they use the one I hear most is chartreuse, you know, and
Yes.
I'm
Hmm.
like, what are the, like, what does it matter? That's what I want to say. I'm like, what is, how do you know?
Because you're trying to imitate something they are familiar with eating. And the most
Okay.
familiar bait that bass eat is a bluegill or some sort of sunfish. And those
Okay.
fish always have what appears to be a chartreuse color on their bodies, more of a greenish yellow. That's
Okay.
why that is probably the most popular color, not only for bass, but for most sunfish, crappie, other bluegill, etc. It's a very popular color because they resemble, in terms of color, more than any other color, including white. They resemble more than any other color for that fish, similar to something that they would normally eat.
Okay.
Another one is a dark red, because for bass that's the color of a crawdad. Sometimes they are shaded a little blue and some other colors, but red is the number one color for a crawbait
Okay.
or some form of it. Yeah. I wanted to show you. This is Someone asked what my personal best is for
Mm-hmm.
bass. My personal best is a 10 pound, just over 10 pound,
Uh-oh.
that I caught. Yeah, and I I've caught a lot in the area. Now this is in my younger days, but this is my 10 pounder right here. If you can see that there,
Oh
can you
my
see that?
goodness.
Nice looking fish.
That's a
Thank you.
nice fish.
And I caught him on a frog. The frogs were biting that day, and I mean we're hitting that day, and we got him. Oh, did we get him? Here, by the way, is my largest ever. Let's see if I can get that in a little bit better. Let's see. Let me turn this down a little bit. Yeah, you should be able to see it better. That is a crappie, a black
Oh
crappie.
my.
Caught him on Clear Lake. That that fish is 4 pounds 4 ounces.
Wow.
Yep, 19 and a half inches long.
See, and I didn't even know that they can get that big.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think they can, but they actually do. They get very big. Um, and like I said, I have so much fun here. Oh, by the way, here is a picture. Now that face should look familiar to you, right? It's
Yes.
a regular old grass carp, but
Uh-huh.
look what's in that fish's mouth.
Oh
It's a
wow.
it's a crawdad bait, because
Huh.
that day that's what they were eating. They were eating crawdad baits. I weighed that fish, and let me see if you can see that there. I had an old school scale, but
Uh-huh.
look at the weight on it
Okay, I can't see it.
right there on the other side. The pounds are the where the 10 is. Can you see it now?
No, there's a little bit of
No,
glare
there's
on
a
there.
glare.
A little bit of glare.
Looks like it's right around 10 pounds.
Yeah, it's just over 10 pounds. Just over 10 pounds. And oh my goodness, she was a beauty. There is a little
Oh
bit
my
more of her
goodness.
body. And
Yes.
then let's see, let me get here's another one with it, the head, and then there was a bigger one. Yeah.
Well,
So
that's my kind of fish.
there you go. Well, that's why I said it you can catch these fish if you know what you're looking for. Your style of fishing will change based upon what equipment you have, but you just do it a lot more frequently and a lot more efficiently. And that way, you're not sitting out there 6 or 8 hours like we used to. You can get out there and just do 2 hours and catch 6 hours worth of fish. Oh, yeah. So, but this is why I get online and I try to, as I like to say, pontificate what I think I know about fishing.
Right. Well, I'm learning a lot. So
Well, thank you very
yeah,
much, very
I
much.
I think I'm gonna. You saw there was a comment earlier that said I want
Mm.
to go shopping. So Thomas, I think we're gonna go out and get some gear.
Oh
What
yeah,
kind of gear?
and
But we don't have that gear.
Well,
there
he
you
don't want to get us
go.
gear. He probably doesn't want to give it to us.
Well, he
I give
told
away
us
a lot of
before
gear. I
how
give
we
away a
can
lot of
get
gear.
that gear
Yes.
on a
Hmm.
with
On a budget.
discounts and everything else.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm
And
gonna start looking
you could
for.
start. I have a beginners a lot of beginners videos up there.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people to start off with, if you're just now getting into this style of fishing, bass fishing, crappie fishing like that, start off with a sub $100 combo, or your rod and reel should not pass $100. Now, that means your out the door price. That does not mean what the total retail value of that combo is. So if you can get it on a discount, just take your time and go look around. I know you all have either a Sportsman's, a Bass Pro Shop, or Dick's Sporting Goods in your area.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody tends to have one of the three or some combination of the three. And then your local shops, because some of the local shops do a great job. And then if you have an American Legacy Fishing, they always have sales. They even
You
said
know,
they're the,
we have one of those in Evansville, and I was afraid to go in there
really,
because I was like,
wow.
what is all this stuff? I didn't know I didn't know what questions I was gonna ask, and and
Hmm. Hmm.
I was scared when I went in the store. Like, oh man. But yeah, we
Oh,
have
no
one of
doubt.
those in the city next to us, and I was like,
Hmm.
now I'm gonna go in there and I might, find
Well, there you
something I
go.
want.
Well, I can tell you this: if you want to continue with the bait caster, the Daiwa, any Daiwa bait cast reel under $100, from 50 to $100, is a really good one.
Okay.
Any one of them, because the technology for Daiwa has passed down from their most expensive reels all the way down to their budget reels. So the technology that you would have had to spend $500 for, you now can get for $69.
Okay.
You can now get that, and that also applies to the rods as well. There are some Daiwa rods that are just really really good now. Where if this conversation was happening 10 years ago, I would tell you don't even think about it. But today they're really really reasonable and great values. There, you're not going to break those rods or reels, and they're pretty tough. You know,
Okay.
so yeah, so you could walk into American, and the one good thing about American Legacy Fishing is they have a used rod selection as well, and they really really keep up with the used rod selection, and you can get some great deals from there. You don't have to pick like, I have to have the Shimano.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a good Daiwa, you can get a good Shimano. I mean, the SLX series of rods is a great series of rods, and they're under $100. If you want to look at combos, now my favorite, if I wanted to start off with something, is the 13 Fishing line, a series of rods and reels. 13 Fishing for me, I think, is kind of an outlier in what a good quality budget rod reel combo should be, because out the box they apply all of the high end applications and technologies to a budget reel and a budget rod, and I think you can't go wrong with that. You just can't go wrong with that.
Here we
Oh
have
yeah.
a question. What's the best $100 bait caster and best $100 medium heavy rod for under $100 in your opinion?
Well, we just touched on it.
Yes.
I would add though, that for the bait cast community, again, there's a bit of an evolution where they're getting into something called bait finesse.
Uh-huh.
So bait finesse just simply means that the equipment is a little bit more less. It's not as big as the bait casters tend to be. They're more. They look more like spinning gear in terms of their size and their applications. So you'll get a medium bend or a medium fast bend out of a rod where you probably would not have gotten something like that in times past. And they're really good options to consider. If you just wanted to stay in the bait cast area, that would be something to consider, is to go with the bait finesse system, or BFS. And you can still get some great prices on those rods and reels. So that's what I would recommend. If you wanted to go with a brand, anything between $50 and whoa, now what you got there looks pretty nice. What's that?
I was sneaking that in because this is the only I guess bass type fishing rod combo that I have. It's a Cast King Spartacus
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
a Berkeley Cherrywood.
Berkeley
Uh,
Cherrywood is a beautiful rod. Oh, no doubt about it.
and I
Hmm.
probably used this twice because this right here, yeah, it gets
Well,
me every time.
yes, yes, yes. And
I've
for the
had to,
record,
uh-huh.
for the record, I'm in the same boat with you when it comes to the new dial, because those are called low profile bait cast reels.
Uh-huh.
And they have a lot of adjustments on them so that
Yes.
you can tune in to more precise casting. But once you command them, they're very good.
Well,
Very
I
good.
haven't mastered this yet, and
Hmm.
I started fishing with a low profile bait caster reel.
Ah,
But
okay.
it's nothing like this one because, like you said, all the adjusting and everything, I'll throw it
Yes.
one time, and the
And
next
then
time,
I'm taking the bird nest
then
out
there,
for a
yeah,
couple
then
Oh,
I
days.
yeah,
have a
yeah,
bird
yeah.
nest, and then
Hmm.
adjust
Hmm.
it for that, and then I guess the next day I'll throw it too hard, or I can't throw it
Yep.
hard enough. So I'm constantly adjusting this, and I'm just like, okay, let's set this aside. So I'm gonna try to get this out again
Hmm.
this summer and see what I can do. So,
Well, my recommendation is, and this will apply for all of your new equipment. If
uh-huh.
you don't have good command over it, find you a space in the backyard and get a half ounce piece of weight or a half ounce lure. Take all the hooks off of it
Mm-hmm.
and just learn how to cast it in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But
Once you're
these
able to do
you can
that,
use very
oh
well.
my goodness, look at those. Yeah.
That's what I'm used to. And then
Oh,
when
no
I
doubt
came to
about it.
this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, the bait cast the guys who use bait casters, when they want to throw those big 4 ounce swim baits, the ones that look like actual fish you would catch,
Uh-huh.
when they are throwing those baits, that's the kind of reels they use.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, they use the high profile reels because they're tying those lures sometimes to 80-pound test.
Oh.
So they're using braided line, but they're
Mm-hmm.
it's big line. So they have to use a lot of the higher profile ones because the low profile reel will not have enough space to give them as much fishing line as they need to cast them.
Right, right.
Oh yeah. So
So yeah.
it's a fun thing. But yeah, get out there, and Cast King has come a long way. Oh my goodness. They have some great equipment in general. Um, they you remember the guy who had the yellow rod? I told you his name is Skeet Reese.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he has just started a partnership with Cast King. And so that is going to do a lot for both of them, both for Skeet Reese to keep his career going, and for Cast King, who will be, I can say they're really doing a good job coming along in the mainstream of bass fishing. Another group that, or another channel that references them in the bait finesse area is
Mm-hmm.
called, uh, what are they called? Um, I forget the name of the channel right now. But one of the guys, his name is Tactical Bassing. I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
I was having that, but Tactical Bassing. They talk about Cast King in the bait finesse area.
Okay.
Oh yeah. hmm Bait runner reels. Yep. Well, bait runner reels. Remember, I was telling you about the spinning reel right here. This
Uh-huh.
is a bait runner. It's a spinning model, but it's a bait runner because you just pop that up and then you let it go, and then when you want for to stop it, there you go. So
Okay.
yeah, even in the spinning models, you have bait runners.
Yeah,
Oh
I've got
yeah.
a Penn Fierce 2 bait runner.
Oh man,
I've got that
pin
on
reels.
a 12-foot rod.
Oh man, there is a guy who long time ago invented the technique called pitching and flipping with a 12-foot bass rod. And what he started using for a long time was the pin bait cast reels. I remember back in the 70s when I had the pin, there were green and white spinning reels. I love pin. They moved into the saltwater business for a long time, but they're coming back in the freshwater. Great company, got great technology going on with them. In anything with ball bearings of more than 4 in their spinning and in their bait casters is an absolute winner reel. No doubt about it. And that Fierce is nothing to play with. I mean, it's a good reel.
Oh, I like it.
Oh yeah. Do you have the Fierce or the Fierce 2? Because there's
Fierce
two
2.
kinds. Fierce 2. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The upgrades that they made, they improved the drag system on that reel a lot. If you ever have both the current model, the Fierce, and then the Fierce 2, and you put them and you fish with both of them, you can set the drag on the Fierce 2 a lot better, and you will have a lot better experience when you're bringing in fish, or even when you're casting and you're reeling in against the current. You'll feel the difference in the drag.
Well, the last few years, I've just pretty much been a tackle collector because I haven't been able to catch squat.
Well, maybe I need to come to Indiana.
Oh yes, yes. That would be great.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
see.
oh
We
yeah.
have a where does Shakespeare fit into the list?
Well, Shakespeare is the number one fishing retailer producer in the world. The Ugly Stick is made by Shakespeare, for example. There's no one even close to Shakespeare. Shakespeare is owned by Pure Fishing, which also owns Berkeley. So that Berkeley cherry that you got, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the technology between the Ugly Stick and the Berkeley cherry crisscross.
Don't
The
even
Berkeley
So
say
cherry
it.
wood is an ugly stick.
Don't even say it.
yeah, the durability of the cherry, the Berkeley cherry, a lot of it comes from the Ugly Stick. Remember, the Ugly Stick is the original in terms of modern day um, bait
Oh, I
cast
didn't
and
know that.
spinning. This rod came out in 1976. And everybody tried to beat this rod in terms of its performance. And they've taken aspects, even G Loomis. And I'm talking about the guy G Loomis who made the original G Loomis rods. He now makes edge rods. But G Loomis, a lot of his technique and a lot of his skill came from understanding why the Shakespeare ugly stick was so good of a rod for so many people around the world. And so the Berkeley Cherry, a lot of the Abu Garcia line, which is also a Berkeley product, um, just take your pick. The ugly stick is what we call the OG of
Mm-hmm.
modern fishing equipment or fishing rods in particular.
Yeah, they tease me because I say I do not like ugly sticks.
Oh, and
So
yet you hold a cherry.
yes. See, I don't know a lot, and I learned today.
Yeah, there is again. If you want to talk about carp fishing around the world, the ugly stick has cornered the market. And I know that there are other rods. You got your 2.5 pound rods. You got your 3 pound rods. Those are the elite rods in carp fishing. But the ugly stick catches more fish around the world than any brand at any time, anywhere. Period. Nothing
And now
comes close.
and now that you say that, we have a buddy Gary that fishes with us all the time, and
Uh huh.
that's his go-to rod, and he says, "Oh, this is the best." And so now that you said that,
Uh
I'm
huh.
pretty sure he's going to say, "Well, you remember what he said." So yeah, I'm not going
Oh
to hear
yeah.
the end of it.
The only thing the that ugly stick would probably need to do to improve itself, and it's not going to move very far because they have a winning product, and that is how can we make this rod a little bit lighter, because technology with equipment overall has us doing more casting. And doing this over the course of a day, when you're doing this 1,500 times and you're out there 3, 4 days a week, you you got a lot of fishermen who are getting surgery on their hands, a lot,
Mhm.
even including if you remember this name, Gary Dobbins for Dobbins Fishing Rods. He was one of the best fishermen in the West Coast, and he has his own fishing rod line. Most of your supporters will know that name. Well, he's had to have surgery on his hands over the years because of how heavy equipment is after doing this all these, hundreds of times in the course of a day. Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah. He
now
tried to
that's an
send me.
interesting point there. The GX2 line replaced, and the question is, I tried to send Shireena 2 brand new ugly stick GX2s, and she said no. Only person ever on earth to say no to ugly sticks. Bad Shireena. Let me tell you, the GX2 line replaced the classic, and it took what 25, almost 30 years before they upgraded the classic. The classic enjoyed the longest run of one particular rod line than any other line. I mean, any other rod around. Nobody comes close to it. And they replaced it with the GX2. Now, I have my problems with the GX2
Mhm.
because I went with the Ugly Stick Light. When they went to GX2, I went to the Ugly Stick Light, which is the direction I think the company should have gone.
Mhm.
Well, they upgraded the Light to the Elite, which is what I have here now.
Uh-huh.
And I'm very happy with the Elite version. They now have a version called the Carbon, but it's still a pretty heavy rod by comparison. But that GX2 is, again, it ain't nothing to play with. You know,
Okay,
you
Jarrell,
you
go
should
ahead and
you
send
should
them. Go
there
ahead.
you heard her. You heard her. Put them in a rod tube and get them in the mail today.
Yeah, yeah.
You will be happy with the product that you'll have with those GX2s. They're good rods. They're really
Okay.
good. And like I said, I'm going to turn this slightly so you can see
Uh-huh.
my rods. Okay, and turn this ever so slightly. I want you to just look down there. See all those rods?
Ooh, yeah. Wow.
All together, there's almost 70 rods there. I have all kinds of rods, but I'm telling you, the ugly stick will always be the center.
Oh
I
no.
saw one of your guys talked about he said he's an ugly stick nut. That was a person who made a comment a few comments earlier.
Uh-huh.
What about the seeker rods, the whisker seeker rods?
Uh-huh.
Seeker is a good rod. Um, the problem with the seeker rods is they break a lot. They break a
Yes.
lot. Yeah.
I've
And
I've
for
broken
whatever
one.
reason, the return, and this is something that has to do with the levels of graphite. Okay. They're recorded in pounds. So you get the 24 pound, um, or 46. They're in these numbers. Well, what happens with seeker rods is they try to do composites in a way where they gave you what you would want in terms of how light a rod was, or the great performance. But when they broke, and because of the large numbers of them that broke, it really hurt the business for them. Yeah. So that's the only reason I don't mess with Seeker rods, is because, and Kistler is another company the same way. The rods just break a lot. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
When
broken
you
a
were
whisker speaker before.
Shareena's broken a lot of
okay.
rock. So
I'm the queen of breaking rods. Yeah.
Hey, I got my share in here now.
Yeah.
I got my share. They if they can withstand me, they're good rods. That's the point. And just because you want to do R&D, that's okay. Tell everybody, don't hate. I'm in R&D.
No.
they're
But
all good
you want,
rods, and they all break.
wow, yeah, yeah. Well, you have to have a good relationship with a rod, meaning you have to know what this rod is capable of doing, both in storage, transport, and while you're using it. You have to have, and I call it a relationship, because you don't want to walk around, for example, that expensive rod here. I know people who will treat this rod so delicately that they will hardly fish it. I'm going to fish this rod as hard, this $1,000 combo. I'm going to fish this rod and handle it and drop it and be as some would say
Confident.
callous with this rod as I would with my ugly stick, which doesn't go past $70. It's like $65 combo, because I'm not out there to really take care of the rod in that way. And they need to build a rod knowing that I'm going to have that rod in my hand. You know.
Hmm.
Now, thankfully for Megabass, they have a really good trade in. I mean, if I broke this rod today, I have to send them $100, and they'll send me a new one. But and it's a kind of a no questions asked policy. But there are a lot of companies that just don't have it. I don't remember what Seekers was, but it wasn't easy after a while to send a rod in. They asked about a whole bunch of questions before
They
they
have you
would
send a
accept a rod.
picture and yeah,
Yeah.
pictures and things. Yes.
Want to make sure you didn't really slam it in the car door.
Right.
But yeah, my thing is, if I slam it in the car door, then just send me another rod. Give me the replacement value for it.
Right.
Otherwise, I won't buy that rod again. That's just the way that I see it. I'm going to break it sometimes, other than actually hooking into a fish.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So, oh yeah, oh yeah. There's a lot of questions coming up there, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot that we
We
missed.
probably missed a lot. Sorry, guys, but I don't know a lot about bass fishing or about bass fishing equipment. So I'm trying to, focus on,
And
I'm listening.
Malie is a really easy guy to listen to once you
Well,
do get ask him a question.
well,
He seems to
amen.
be
Where I
really
come
full of
from, I say
knowledge.
praise the Lord for that.
And if you guys haven't, you should go over to his channel and check it out because, like I said, I didn't know anything. Okay. And I've watched many, many videos and realized that, hey, I was doing the right thing. But whenever
Hmm.
it was explained the way you explained it, it made more sense.
Oh,
And
well,
yeah,
thank
a
you.
lot of those
Thank you very
videos
much.
are easy to understand. Very easy to
Thank you.
understand.
I really appreciate that. And if I can be helpful in any other way, and this doesn't have to be the last time I'm on your channel. You anytime you want me.
I was gonna
Oh yeah.
ask you if you would want to come back and we discuss like a certain topic, because like
Yeah.
I said, I'm wanting to get into bass fishing and everything, and
Hmm.
I want to learn, I want to learn
Hmm.
what to do
Hmm.
from, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I will mention is when you first get into it, you want to set up your system, meaning your rod, your reel, your fishing line, and your equipment in a way where if the bass aren't, if you can't find the bass, you'll find the crappie. If you can't find the crappie, you'll find the catfish. But you're using the same equipment. You're not changing because the species is changing. What you're responding to is what I said earlier in this podcast. You're looking for fish that are active and either want to respond to your bait, either because they're reacting to it, either out of anger or response, or they're hungry, and that's
Hmm.
what you're looking for. And so when we discuss it, we'll start off by looking at those ways, and then you get into your specialties, your worm rod, your jig rod, and your spinner bait rod, because there are all kinds of ways to set up your equipment. There are times when I go to the fish bank with 11 rods and I'm walking. When I get in a boat, I can have 19 or 20 rods, or I can get in there with four. Yeah, but it's not uncommon for me to just pick 19 or 20 rods, especially if I'm going to be on a boat. And like, this is what I'm taking today. Oh yeah, we call it going heavy.
Yeah, he always asks me, so which rods are you going to take on this trip? I'm like, well, Thomas, I'm not sure because but I need to
Yeah.
take this
Hmm.
one,
Hmm.
and I have a special rod, I call it blue, that
Ah,
always has to go, no matter what,
yes, yes.
because
Hmm.
I know what it can do. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever I put on it, I know what I'm gonna
Oh, no doubt.
yeah. So
No
I'm like,
doubt.
blue has to go regardless,
Yeah,
on
you
every
got your
trip.
favorite rod that
Hmm.
goes with you, and then everything else kind of just flanks it. Well,
Yes.
today you're going, but you're staying, and tomorrow you're going. I got a 12-foot crappie rod where it only goes when I'm fishing off of a levee. I never take it on a boat, but there's a certain levee that I go to in the California Delta in Northern California here, where when I take that rod, I already know what I'm going for.
Hmm.
I already
And
know. Oh yeah.
and
And by
people
the
and
way, it's made by
sorry.
Shakespeare.
Oh,
It
I'm not gonna hear the end of that.
is made by Shakespeare for the record. Oh
um,
yeah.
People
So
ask me, so
there's a
okay.
question here about the reel seat. Um every rod or company that sells baits is going to have certain fails. If you buy enough rods, you're going to have some where the reel seat is too small that the rod won't clamp all the way down, or you'll have a strip, what we call the nut, it will strip, or it will crack. Because a lot of these aren't made with metal anymore; they're made with graphite and plastic, and those crack. Sometimes you can be fishing in areas where the rod is in an area where it's too cold to fish with that rod. So even your guides will crack, and I'm talking on high end rods. They have a rod um, over there. It's called a Tatula, and they have what are called AGS guides. Well, at a certain temperature of coldness, they're just as brittle as they want to be, and we're talking about $25 per guide. And there, I think, are 10 or 11 guides on those rods. So, yes, I've had that experience before, but that's the reason why you want to test it against what you have. One of the reasons why I don't like purchasing online is the process to return it if it doesn't fit or if there is a break. or at the very least, if I purchase it online, have a retail store available so I can take it back immediately. So, oh yeah. hmm yes, I know Nick, the informative fisherman. I know him personally. He's a great guy. He has his own fishing rods called sticks, and they're really good rods.
Are they ugly
Um,
sticks?
Oh
you know that's
man.
gonna be a meme. That just
Yeah.
gonna that's gonna be the meme on your channel.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you just gonna have to take that one. That may grow your channel by about 10,000 views. I mean,
Oh,
10,000 subs. Okay, just go ahead and roll with that one.
yeah. Oh
Oh
man.
my goodness. But oh yeah, Nick the Informative Fisherman is a great guy. He's a good fisherman. He has these expos every year down in the Stockton, California area. Really knowledgeable guy. He's not as accessible as he used to be, but because of what, you know, my involvement in the fishing industry up here, I see him 3 or 4 times a year just in occasion. But we actually know each other off the water.
So, what's your 2023 outlook for your go-to gear this year? Anything new that you're looking for? Anything you're
Oh yeah.
saving for?
Well, I was until I won this rod, that bait cast rod that is like one of 6 bait casters I have in my arsenal. And it's the only one with a reel, by the way. Uh, but this year, my goal was to purchase a Shimano. It's called a Conquest, or I'm sorry, not Shimano, but G Loomis. It's called a G Loomis Conquest rod. It's a $750 rod. And here, my mental contest was, how inexpensive can I get this rod? I had already gotten it down to $400. And then I woke up on literally January 1st of this year. I'm preparing to go to church. And some of my subscribers started emailing me and asking me, did I win a rod? And I said, well, there goes the money for that, because since I won the rod, I got to get it a reel. And so I don't know if I'm going to continue on that. But there are I should say this, my focus this year is going to be on the budget fishing for boats, because we have this tendency, we always want to bring our high end gear when we have the boats. But if I'm bank fishing, what is the highest level of budget gear that I could get and still take it out on the bank? Because it's a little bit more rugged to have your fishing equipment on the bank than it is on a boat.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a whole lot harder to move everything if you want to change.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So and the number one thing is, how can I get a rod to do more than 2 or 3 things? Because again, in bass fishing in particular, rods after a certain amount in price, they become specific, technique specific. And that's also why they become so expensive. So for me is to figure out, do I need that rod? So for example, this rod here, this is called, as long as it doesn't get caught up, this rod here is called an X Pride. Okay. This is the Shimano X Pride. This is probably one of the more sought after. This is the brand new model, the Shimano X Pride. And I have it paired with a Shimano Vanford. Now, this is a pretty expensive rod. The rod's about $300. The reel's about $250. Okay. Now, I paid my out the door price for this rod was about $140 or something like that. I can't remember now, but it was in that neighborhood. So I got it at a really good price. My goal is, for example, using this rod as an example, to figure out how many techniques I can do on this one rod, so that I'm not taking 9 or 10 rods out, because at this point in the game, equipment has become so good that I don't need to be as technique specific as I once had to be, because the way the rods were made.
Now, you fish mostly lakes, or do you fish lakes, rivers?
It's about the same for me, lakes, rivers, and sloughs. So, for example, here we have lakes that are on the river. And so, for me to move from the lake behind the dam to the river in front of the dam is real easy. And then, of course, we have a lot of tributaries and streams that built into our rivers, and they have a lot of fish in them as well. So, by that same token, I'm also, I'm also fishing in those areas as well. As a matter of fact, that where that carp was that I showed you,
Uh-huh.
that is a tributary that comes off of one of our lakes. And I am probably 60 miles from the lake. But that little tributary right there, it's probably only about maybe 50 feet wide, but it goes from that lake, Lake Berryessa. It's called Pewter Creek, and it flows a total distance of about 75 miles away from the lake into another body of water called the Tow Drain, which is part of our California Delta system. And it is full of fish. And I mean, it is full of fish. You can take any species you want that is not an Andromeda's fish, and it's in that water. And you could target those fish and catch a bunch of them. Now, this year I'm doing something a little different as well, and you'll probably start seeing it maybe tomorrow or next week. Is I'm going to be putting together my rod and reel arsenal, my budget rod and reel arsenal, my mid level, and then my high end. And the reason why is because I'm noticing that I'm getting a lot more people who are joining into the channel who start off in different levels. Some, I actually have tournament fishermen who are actually, if you could believe that, they're actually listening. you know, and so because many of them are mostly using bait casters, they don't use a lot of spinning gear and they want to make transitions. And so they'll come and they'll get some advice, and it's very humbling to know that they're there. It's about 10 of them so far. It's very humbling to know that they're there. But
Right.
that kind of information from the rod and reel arsenal helps to hone in on those individuals and where they start. Because like I said, these professionals, they're starting high. I mean, they are the top of the top, but they're using bait cast equipment. So they're not going to come in and buy another stick. They're going to buy an X Pride. They're going to buy a Poison Adrena or a Tatula, but they are wanting to buy the spinning model as opposed to buying their traditional bait cast model. And they want to know from guys like me, well, how do I set this up so I can be as effective with it as I would normally be with my bait caster? So that's the reason why. And that will set the tone for this year's different videos that I'll produce, because they'll all stream from these three arsenals that I'll post.
So, want to be outdoors once in a while. What do you use for smallmouth bass, since they are superior to largemouth in his opinion?
That's a Coke and Pepsi argument, right? The old brown bag. The equipment that we use is not different, except for when it comes to the big, heavy equipment like swim bait, the big swim bait equipment. That's where it's different. But most of the time, it's very similar. We're all using now. You will use more tube baits than you would for bass, largemouth bass. You will use more tube baits for smallmouth bass than largemouth bass. Or if you're going for spotted bass, you use more tube baits for that. So for me, I use more of I use more of my finesse equipment, the lighter end equipment, or equipment that I would normally use for crappie, I would use for smallmouth than I would traditionally if I'm just targeting bass. Because smallmouth are not known for example, smallmouth are not known for going after frogs. There are some who do, but they're not known for it. They're not known for going after jerk baits in the same way that largemouth are. But you can throw them. It's just that they're not as susceptible to them as the other. But when it comes to your plastic baits, your crawl baits, your worms, your tubes, they're pretty much the same in terms of whether they're largemouth or smallmouth. So if I were going to a smallmouth lake, I would bring more of my finesse style, my Kitex. I would bring more of my net rigs, and you'll see as as we get a chance to talk again, or you'll see some of the videos on the channel. Um, those type of baits will be more prominent in my fishing day than if I were throwing spinner baits or throwing again a big swim baits and things like that.
So, is there anything else you'd like to cover? Because it seems like we covered a lot of ground today.
Covered a lot, but there's a lot more. So we're gonna have to bring you back sometime if
Okay,
you'd want
I
to
look
do
forward
that.
to it.
And,
Oh, most definitely, most
awesome.
definitely.
Because we've
Um,
gone over our 1 hour time limit by about 51 minutes so far.
Funny how
Which
time
is
flies, huh?
great. Yeah. We started out like, oh my gosh. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's been
We
very,
made up for it.
yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot.
Hmm.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take what you've given me today
Okay.
and think on it, and then put together some questions and things and have you back sometime. How about
I
that?
would. It is a pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to the next opportunity.
I really appreciate you for accepting. So, and I
Well,
see
I
you.
hope
Go ahead.
I hope that your subscribers, being introduced to this side of fishing, I hope that they like what they heard.
Mm-hmm. So, and I see you have a shirt there.
Oh yeah, it has my logo, Family Budget Fisherman.
I'm gonna have to
Oh
get me
yeah.
one of those. And is there a place where people can order your merch or somewhere
Uh,
they can go to get your?
yes. You can go to any one of the videos, but it's on. Just go to the Family Budget Fisherman channel,
Mhm.
and right in the description, both on Instagram and on YouTube, there should be a link there. It's certainly in the videos as well. Spreadshirt is the company that sells our merch.
Okay.
So if you went to Spreadshirt and look for Family Budget Fisherman, you would find us.
Okay, guys. And
Hmm.
after the stream, I'll go find that and I will put that in the description of this live, and you guys can check out some merch and you know
Yes.
support Family Budget Fishermen.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we got a little bit of everything: shirts, hats, mugs, um, you name it, it's there.
So you have
Almost
any?
Oh,
definitely.
LG Bass, I forgot he was in. I was surprised he
No,
didn't have more questions.
yeah, LG Bass.
He must have been
I saw him
messing.
pop up a couple of times though.
Well, that could have been why I was trying to mess with the echo and everything, and
Yeah.
didn't get around to everybody's
Oh,
comments tonight. They welcome everybody like we normally do, just because that technical difficulty was driving me nuts, and I had fixed that.
And what's
well,
funny is we're sitting here and I'm ready to ask a question, and he asked it for me. I'm like, hey. I said,
oh
and I had
my.
been sitting here so long. I was like, waiting, for the perfect time to ask the question. And there he goes. He asked
Hmm.
the question. I'm
Hmm.
like, man.
Well, by the way, as a salutation to this podcast, um, February, late February in particular, into March is before the 4th of July is the best time to purchase fishing equipment overall.
You guys
Oh
hear
yeah,
that?
oh yeah, best time to purchase fishing equipment. The best deals are happening late February into March. And yes, I fish rivers: the Sacramento River, the American River, um, the McCollum River, the largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass in rivers in California, Northern California in particular, are full of bass. Oh yeah, they're just
Solo.
full of bass. So yeah. So well, thank you once again. I definitely appreciate the invitation again. And yeah, just whenever I'm looking forward to the next opportunity already.
All right. Thank you. And there
Mhm.
is what you say after every one of your videos. I like hearing that. So could you take us out with that?
Yes, do not, under any circumstances, break your family's budget by buying any of this equipment or anything you hear on the channel or any other channel. But by every ethical means and every legal means, get out there and break your personal best. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great time. Be blessed.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.